Welcome to the Izzy Chinche Show. You gain so much of your life back because we go on our phones often to be distracted. But if you go on your phone and you're consuming something that's actually adding value to your life, you think about how many times we pick up our phone a day. I'm so excited you're able to tune in. Join me as I interview athletes, entrepreneurs, and high achievers. I also share much about my life struggles, trials, and successes in hopes to inspire you. I intend for this show to be one of the greatest shows of all time, so your listening and support means the most to me. My goal is to help inspire as many people as possible, so please share with a friend if you enjoy just one thing from today's episode. Together, we can help more people grow. Let's get started. Christian, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Izzy Chinche Show.
How are you doing?
Good. I'm very stoked to be doing this. And as we were just talking about, it's crazy that we knew each other so long ago and then reconnected, and we're doing fairly similar things, but different, but similar in the scope of personal development. And that is what I want to get straight into. I want you to talk a little bit about how you got into your journey of personal development and personal growth and everything like that, because when we were 10 and 11,
that's what we were focused on, right?
Exactly. So now I want to see how far it came.
That's cool. Well, yeah, thanks for having me on. I feel like we are kind of in the same lane. I mean, to give like a little bit of a backstory, I guess how it all started for me is first Izzy and I met. I was 10. No, I was 11.
Yeah.
Izzy was 10.
Yeah.
And through some just family friends, so it's good to reconnect. But essentially I started in the car industry, and so I was selling cars originally, and it was almost like a means to an end. I really wanted to get into door-to-door sales, as crazy as that is. It's like not many people are in kindergarten, like, hey, when I get older, I want to go door-to-door selling people, solar.
Yeah.
But my dad was in the industry, and so they had athletic clubs when I was younger. And then during the whole 2008 economy crash, they lost everything. And then so right after that, my dad wanted, to find a way to provide for the family. So he got into door-to-door sales, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this is crazy. Wow. Like, my dad's just going out and knocking doors every day. And then he started making really good money. And he was talking about the culture over at Vivint. And if you're in the solar industry, like at some point, your like lineage probably links back to Vivint at some point.
Wow.
And so, I wanted to get into the solar industry super bad. And he almost used it as like a takeaway for me. He's like, you need to go and work other sales jobs first. And I think he just wanted me to learn some like grit.
Okay.
Because it really is hard to go and just, get rejected all day.
That's exactly what it is. It is getting rejected all day. And then learning to I've done a lot of door to door, and since I was so I know that game, and it's a tough game, but it's so good because you have to keep going and not take it personally.
Yeah. And I think the doors too are like a reflection of yourself. So like they talk about sales as a transfer of emotion. Mm-hmm. So like where you're at mentally determines how you do throughout the day. So it's like, if my anxiety was low and I was in a good mood, like I was going to set a ton of appointments and have a great day. But like, if I was super stressed out, like not in a good headspace, I was going to have a bad day. So it forces you to have really good habits, because most jobs you can just wake up however you'd like. Like when I was working at Costco or Safeway, I could work, wake up hungover, went out till 2 a.m. the night before, and like it wouldn't matter. Like the groceries are still going to scan the same. Yeah. But when you have to show up in a certain state, I think it does develop you into a better person. Because you have to show up for, like, you have a purpose to show up for every single day. So that helped me a lot. And then I eventually ended up getting into it. My first 2 months, I didn't sell any deals at all. I wasn't like some natural salesperson. I was actually really nervous because I know a ton of people in Chico because I was born and raised here. So I was scared I was going to knock on a door and my ego was in the way. Like, what right did I have to have any ego? Like, I hadn't accomplished anything yet. But I was scared that if I knocked on a door, somebody would see like, oh, Christian's out knocking doors.
Yeah.
But like, looking back at it, I'm like, it was the stupidest thing ever. But I eventually got over that. Kind of went into some credit card debt because I didn't sell anything for 2 months. And it does take a while to get paid in solar because you have to wait for the job to install. Mm-hmm. eventually started selling deals. And then my third month in, I sold like 1 or 2. And then my fourth month in, I sold like 8. It just clicked finally.
Yeah. Because you
And
didn't get, but like you still did 2 months of didn't get anything. And that's where like, it is crazy to me the amount of people who will quit at, I mean, honestly, month 1, like, you know, they're like, oh, it didn't happen for me. Okay. This isn't working. I love what you said about knocking on doors though, because I recently talked to a coach, an entrepreneur, and she was saying that one of her mentors told her, she was like, your next $1 million is in a network of people you already know. The next $1 million you're going to make is already within the people that you know. And sometimes we do want to like, oh, I'd just rather go do it cold because it feels like, not so personal, but it is that relationship that's actually going to get you closer to that sale anyways. But yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I was just saying that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. Okay, so what role has personal development been like? And I guess it's kind of tied in, but what role has it played in entrepreneurship for you and in your business?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the core or like fundamentals of like becoming a better business person is self-development, but sometimes we don't call it that. Like, I don't know if everybody puts the same label on it. But I think, and Alex Ramosi kind of talks about it, instead of like investing your maybe extra $5,000 or $10,000 you have as a new rep, instead of investing it into like the S&P 500, it's kind of corny, but invested into the S&Me 500.
Yep.
And so what I would do is at first I would take a lot of that money and I would look up like, what type of investments could I put this into like some type of index fund. And really it's like, okay, maybe you make an extra $500 like a year from that investment. But then when I started redirecting that extra money that I was making towards buying online courses and like actually developing my sales skills, that's when your income goes from like, hey, I made 100 grand this year to like a couple hundred grand.
Yeah.
And like you really start making huge leaps and bounds in those things. Cause it's hard for us to believe, but like when we're struggling, say I'm the sales rep who's only selling 2 deals a month, and there's another sales rep that's selling 12 deals per month. Like there is nothing necessarily like, there's not some secret formula that you don't like have access to. Most of the top performers, if you were to ask them like, hey, what are you doing to sell 12 deals a month? Like they want to talk about themselves. Like they would tell you, and they probably wouldn't shut up about it for like the next like 3 hours if you really asked them.
Yeah. Yeah. They get about it. Yeah. It's not a secret. You're like, well, I do this. And that's so true.
And then you just have to like plug those systems into what you're doing. But the mistake that a lot of people will make is they'll say like, oh, he's successful because of, things that I can't control. Like he was just born naturally, like super charismatic and he's a people person. And we tell ourselves these stories that are like limiting mindsets. It's like, even if they are a people person, like that is a trained ability. And I think that's something I believe really deeply is like any ability that you see that somebody's like really talented in, as far as like in business, 99% of it is like a trained ability, not just God-given,
Yeah. That's so true. I mean, that's so true because it's not like we spent a bunch of time in our childhood, but like I knew you, but I just knew that you played football. Like you played football and you would get out and like hang out with all of us. And like, that's what it was. I wasn't like, I never saw you as this crazy outgoing like person. I mean, you were always like friendly and had a good time, but and now you're kicking ass with it. I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely wasn't like the biggest people person at that age.
Yeah. Not that you weren't awesome, but yeah, different. Were there was there a specific course that you think that you took that was incredibly pivotal in your process, your development?
Yeah, I invested. There's a guy in the solar industry who's probably one of the bigger mentors. His name's Sam Taggart, and he had a course called Door to Door University. Really, really creative name, right? And so I invested into that course, and then it had everything from like sales to leadership to recruiting. And I was just obsessed with those courses. And what I did is almost every single hour that I would normally spend on entertainment, I would replace that with education. So when I'd come home from working, instead of like oh, let me watch Netflix or let me watch YouTube, I'd spend 2 to 3 hours on door-to-door university and just learning every single thing that I could. And then what happens is the next day when you're about to go out and knock doors as well, is you're actually excited because you have like tools that you could really use. It'd be like if somebody asked you to build a building and you had no tools at all, you would not be excited to show up for work. But if you had like a huge construction team with you and you were just delegating and like showing everybody what to do and you had all the tools that you need, like you'd show up like pumped for the day.
Yeah.
So I just felt like I had every tool to overcome any objection, resolve any of the homeowners' problems. So I wasn't as scared to knock doors anymore because I knew exactly what to say. So yeah, it was super pivotal.
What about like, do you remember the first couple doors that you knocked on, slash did you have some ones that were just, it was just tough, slash can you talk on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact doors. I definitely remember my first sale, and
Okay.
I was just like, it's weird how in the beginning that you attribute all of your successes and your wins to just like, oh, I just got lucky, or like,
Mhm.
oh, they just said yes because like, I don't know, somebody was bound to say yes, or like we used to talk about the fallacy of like sales is just a numbers game, or like people will say that too. But I remember when I got my first yes and I was super excited. And if I could go back, like the only thing that I would change is I would like tell myself to take ownership for that win.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
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 I love that. Yeah. You had the guts to go. You got in front of the people and you said what you needed to, you needed to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
What is sort of your leadership philosophy? Because I know I've seen you post about that and talk about that, and then I saw that.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned that was in the course, so speak on that for a little bit. I'm curious.
You said leadership philosophy?
Yeah, leadership philosophy
Yeah.
within business. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it all stems back to accountability. There was actually this story that I heard from Sam Taggart when I went to one of his like business retreats, but it was a company called OGO, like the backpacks.
Yeah. No.
And so that company was originally like a $5 million company is like what they do in revenue every single year. And then they wanted to change and they were like delegating a lot of different tasks to like new people that they were hiring. They were investing a lot of money and growing.
Yeah.
And so like the one biggest change that they made to go from 5 million to 50 million was accountability. So when they'd give a task to somebody, they would have a date set on the calendar to check back and be like, hey, did you complete X, Y, and Z task?
Mm.
And it's such a little thing, but like so many times we delegate things to others and then we don't go and check back on them or actually hold them accountable to do it. And what you train people, well, the idea that you train them like on if you don't check back on that task is you let them know that the task really wasn't that important.
Yeah.
Like if they don't actually go and do it. So it's a lot of accountability and it's a lot of hard conversations as well. I think most people in their life, they don't have somebody who's really willing to tell them like, hey, John, when you first started, you told me that you wanted to make enough money to be able to take this money to go and invest and like buy your family a home or like retire yourself or your family at some point. And you're not doing the actions to actually, achieve that. How can we get you from, not doing those things to doing those things? Because I know that's super important for you. And then when whatever they say is actually holding them accountable to it is like most people in our lives will tell us like, oh, you've been working so hard, just take a break. Or like, you should just rest. It's the
Yeah.
weekend. It's like, how many people in our life could we actually say are pushing us every single day to do more? And I think those are the people at the end of the day that probably love you the most.
Yeah, it's true because I think there's a piece to it that they don't want to feel guilty about not doing stuff. So they would rather be like, hey, I'm lazing around all weekend. You should do
Yeah.
that too. Like we deserve to. We deserve it. And I was thinking about this the other
Yeah.
day because of something Alex Hormozy posted. And he was
Yeah.
just like, props if you are someone who works on the weekend and doesn't view
I
it
think I saw that. Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a sin or whatever. And I was just like, that's so true because
Yeah.
about the amount of time that you lose if you just check out by noon on Friday and then
Yeah.
so that's a half day plus a full Saturday and Sunday when you don't have other things to do. So really you could be like maxing out on that time. But the majority of people are going to say, no, just let it. And then there's a balance and it's important. But no, you got to capitalize on the time that you have. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's 52 weeks in a year. So like 104 days out of the year, you're just going to take off. Like that's almost 30% of the year. And like if somebody's doing that, like it's just math at that point. Like you're probably going to lose to the guy who is putting in, that extra 30% every year. You
Yeah.
you can't overcome that.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have like, and the thing is, it doesn't even have to be crazy amounts of work. Cause I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, I'm going to work. Uh, Yesterday, it was Sunday. I was like, I'm going to work. But I was like, it's just going to be a couple hours, but
Yeah.
I'm still threading the needle. Like we're still trying to
Yeah.
move forward, even if it's just a couple hours. But
Yeah.
like, oh no, I can't do anything on the weekend. I'm not. And I see that mentality. I'm like, that's not going to serve you in the long run. If you have those kinds of like dreams and goals, like
Yeah.
leverage the weekend for sure.
100%. Yeah. I'm on the same page with you.
Yeah, what would you say are some of your tips for getting into personal growth and like self-development? Because you said something to me last week to the effect of we're a personal development business that
Oh,
solar.
or
What was
like
that you said?
we're like a personal development company that just so happens to sell solar panels.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Expand
Yeah.
on that and like kind of where did that come from? And I want to hear more about that. I think that's
I
awesome.
had another mentor at some point, and like his name was Mikey Lucas, and I would pay like a monthly mentorship fee to just hop on calls with him, and he wanted me to put together a vision of like what would you want Ohm to be known for, and I think if in business you could choose to have everybody have a similar trait, it would be that everybody's investing into self-development, because then you're working with a ton of talented people, and then that kind of compounds on itself.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, that's kind of where it came from. It's just like I spend a ton of time doing it. I know it's like what helps me, and I think like a lot of our reps and the best reps at our company are like doing that as well, as they'll be the ones sending in like, it's funny how we learn things now. It's like I'll hear some of like the best sales tips and tricks through like TikTok. And it's like,
Yeah.
what? And we'll have people send them into the group chat. And for some people, it's crazy because like TikTok or Instagram Reels will be the biggest tool like for them to help achieve whatever they want. But for other people, because their algorithm is so skewed the other way towards only entertainment, like it could be your biggest detriment. And so like if you look at your algorithm, like and the videos that you're seeing, that's probably a really good representation of where your life is, because we are like an accumulation of like the things that we take in. And so that'd probably be a really good like
Yes.
um self-development like check-in on yourself. Like what does your algorithm look like?
I love that you just said that. And I think more people could benefit from hearing that. Like,
Yeah.
look at your algorithm, like what is popping up, and know that you can shift it. Just like
Yeah.
you can shift it very easily and start looking up certain things. But I was thinking about that the other day because I was talking to two of my other entrepreneur friends, and they were saying, they're like, yeah, I've been scrolling too much and seeing these certain things. And I was just like, one, I'm not a big fan of scrolling. I
Yeah.
myself drastically with that. I'm very hard on myself with that. I don't enjoy that. But then two, I was like, I just don't look at stuff that isn't going to serve me. At least I try not to. So I was like, if you can shift
Yeah.
that, you gain so much of your life back because we go on our phones often to be distracted. But if you go
Yeah.
on your phone and you're consuming something that's actually adding value to your life, you think about how many times we pick up our phone a day to scroll. That's going
Dude,
to
I
compound.
I had a notification yesterday, and it was like 7 hours and 33 minutes a day. I'm like, holy moly, that is crazy. But I think a lot of it, I'm sure some of it I'm like spending on like frivolous things, but I think a majority of it is like either work or like taking in
Yeah.
like new information like you're talking about.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. You got to look at the actual data on that, but it is crazy when
Yeah.
you look at the hours. And I remind people when they're like, "Oh, I just don't have time." I said, "Pull out your phone right now. Show me your screen."
Yeah.
5 hours, really? You couldn't have used like 30 of those minutes to like go to the gym or whatever, you know? They're like,
Yeah.
okay, but that's like the easiest way to get through someone on time when they tell me they don't have time. I'm like, pull out
You're a closer, Izzy. I like it. That's
your
funny.
Hey, we're
That's
out
cool.
here. Okay. All right. So what about advice for aspiring entrepreneurs? Someone who's like, listen to Christian right now. He's like, man, this dude is dope. He's built a great business. He's passionate. He's making moves. What would you tell them?
I would go and number one, like get into sales. Like that's the best skill that you'll need it no matter what you're doing. It's almost a cliche, but everything is sales, because everything is influence. Like there is no product in whatever industry you're in without it being sold. So you need to learn how to influence people to like make a decision or make a purchase is the first thing. And then whatever industry you want to get into, instead of like going and studying that actual industry in college, or, hey, I want to be, a good marketer, is I think a much more efficient way, instead of going to like school for business marketing, is to go and work for somebody who's really good at marketing. Because number one, you get paid to learn like all of these things instead of going into debt to learn all of those things. Yeah. And number two is like, you're going to learn from actual practical, like, knowledge that's being implemented today, and you just learn so much quicker. And I think sometimes we're scared because we're almost taught like a lot of the most successful people you would think would be like really reserved and standoffish with their information, and like wouldn't want to share it with you because then they're scared, you're going to take all the information and go start something somewhere else. I've actually realized the opposite, that most really successful people operate off of abundance. Yep. And it doesn't matter. Like even if you had all the information that they had in their head, like they're in the place that they are for a reason, is because they actually go and implement it. Yep. And like the action matters a lot more than the idea. Ideas are like nothing. Implementation is everything. But yeah, I would just say like go and find somebody that's doing exactly what you want to do. Offer to work for them. It doesn't even have to be for free. Like they will pay you most of the time.
Yeah, when people do that, I'm like, why? Because you're actually in certain cases, maybe it's okay, but it's like you're actually lowering your own value, because you're like,
your status. Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not gonna say that to someone, like, no, I'm not gonna go work for you for free.
And it comes with all these like weird strings attached too, because then it's like, okay, yeah, I'm working for free, but it's really not free. And the entrepreneur knows that, is that since you're doing it for free, they're going to feel obligated to spend like 3 or 4 hours a day with you, sharing all the information that they have. And that 3 to 4 hours a day is worth a lot more to that person than paying you for your job. Like,
and they don't want to do that. They don't want to. They got way too many things to do. I do agree, though, that they're like the people who are on top and are climbing in this space are so generous, and they genuinely do want other people to win. And it's just, it's the way it works. So the more people I have been able to serve, to offer value, to support into any capacity, it's come back around to me so many times. Just I happen to be like, hey, yeah, I can make that. Like just the difference between like cold outreach and a warm intro. Like, oh yeah, I actually know someone in that world. Let me just, put you on an email or a text. That's like the difference is huge. And when someone can do that for me, I'm so grateful, because it's way better than having to reach out and being like, hi, hello.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's cool. That's super cool.
Yeah. Okay. So then, because you are somewhat of a sales expert, can you give like a little sales lesson, like any kind of advice you would give to someone who is an entrepreneur, who is building something or wants to be an entrepreneur? They feel like they have no good sales skills. Because I feel like I run across those people often. They are passionate about what they're doing. They're like, oh, I hate selling though.
Biggest sales tip I could give is you want to be the needed, not the needy. And so how you frame yourself as the expert, or you frame yourself as somebody who holds something of value by being able to take it away from the prospect, is people view selling as like, I have Izzy, I have the best product. Solar panels work, they'll be the best thing you've ever done for your home. And you're going to save so much money. Is like, people naturally resist that. Like that is like the oldest form of selling. And like, we've been sold to too many times like that we've built up this sales resistance that we don't want to listen to. So like, if I was to use an example for solar, instead of me just trying to push my product and tell you all of the amazing things about it, instead I would be like, hey, Izzy, you have a $200 electricity bill. We could potentially swap it out for around $100 solar payment. But first, we need to understand if you could qualify for the project first. It's kind of based on things like your sun exposure and like your electrical panel. And let's say, for example, you do end up qualifying, then you just end up spending $100 less every single month for electricity, and it'd be a no-brainer. But if you don't qualify, we're really not going to be able to help you. And I'm sorry, it's just something that we can't control.
Nice.
And then what happens is like you're focused now, instead of saying yes or no to solar, is you're actually focused on like seeing if you can qualify for it, which is like much more enticing because everybody wants things that they can't have. So those are things like they're called pullbacks, or some people call them takeaways, is you always want to find a reason as to why your prospect wouldn't qualify for your product or service, because then they're going to want your product or service a lot more. People want things that they can't have or things that are exclusive.
Yeah. Do you watch The Office?
No, I don't.
No, oh man, it just reminds me of the scene in The Office. They realize like basically this guy does that same thing. They're selling paper. That's the entire show. And there's this one sales dude who's like really good, and they basically sit in and try and figure out why he's so good. And he sits down, across from the person he's selling to, and he's like, I want to see if, you'd be a good fit for our company. And so he puts it up in, he's like, yeah, we'd have to see. And they're like, oh my gosh, he's making buy or sell to them. And I was like, and that just totally reminded me of that though, because that's such a thing. Like, get them to qualify themselves, being able to work with you. But that's awesome. That's literally what I thought
about. That's funny. That's a really good example. It's like, yeah, I mean, why do you think somebody wants to like buy a Lamborghini instead of like a Honda? Or like, why is that more exciting? It's like, because there's a chance that like you can't actually get it. Like it's hard to obtain.
It's hard
but that's why people hate selling, is because it is exhausting to try to preach all these amazing ideas that you have, or like, my product's so amazing because of X, Y, and Z. And to like try to push that onto people all day is emotionally exhausting, because you're just pushing. And what does the prospect do? Is they pull back. But as soon as you like take a little bit of time, and instead of me pushing the prospect forward, is like I pull back and they start to chase, is like, that's way more fun. Like,
no, you're exciting me. I'm like, oh yeah. And I think the power is also realizing, and I think solar is different because that's not, I mean, technically it is a service based, but it's not like you're continually serving. And I think there's so many people get caught up in trying to save clients, like keep these bad clients. And I was talking about this the other day. I was like, man, I feel like I'm a really good place. The clients that I have, and I've had to cut and cancel clients because I'm like, this just isn't a good fit. But I was like, the ones that I have are starting to bring in similar clients. So we're getting that similar feel of people around. And I think that's
that's like the recruiting matrix. They talk about it in solar too. It's like A's recruit B's, B's recruit C's, and C's recruit D's. It's like,
what about like, what is your kind of your thoughts on referrals and client referrals? And is that heavily embedded in your model, or what does that look like?
To be honest, it's not my specialty at all. Like there's a lot of people that actually at our company that are really, really good at it. At some point I got like a lot better at door knocking, and so I would just essentially like go out every single day and like go and generate new leads and new leads and new leads. And so it kind of became hard to focus on like, hey, I'm going to get referrals through this. Because I felt like I could always go out and get more leads. That was kind of the hard part. Hey, Izzy, I just had a family member text me that they had an emergency. Can I call you back?
Absolutely. Go deal with that. Thank you. Yep.
Sorry. Easy.
Okay, we're back. Glad you handled your emergency. It wasn't an actual emergency. Everything's good.
It's all good.
Siblings. Yeah, sibling stuff. Okay. All right. So, you were actually giving, it could have been a little further back, but you were giving sales advice, I think. and chase, not attract. What's another practical thing for someone who is primarily online? Like they get their sales from an online space. What would be or an online platform, your kind of advice there?
Yeah, I think the best marketing, like, and this is hard for me to say as a salesperson, but the best marketing, eh, I would rather have the absolute best marketing in the world and the worst like sales skills than have like the best sales skills in the world and the worst marketing. It's just like a lot of times you just need more people to talk to get more reps. And
Yeah.
so that means like finding out and I think it's more consistency over intensity, but a way to cold outreach to more and more clients every single day. So what are those funnels that you're creating? Is like you can hire people, say for example, on a place like Upwork, who
Mhm.
their only job is to log into your Instagram and go and source people in the niches that you want and then go and message them. And then you can kind of like duplicate or replicate yourself because
Okay.
you can't just be sending messages literally all like every single moment of the day. But
Yeah.
you could have somebody, working overseas to like do that for you. And then once you get those like prospects on, is you want to like ask implementation questions or like are more like actually consequence questions. So things like, say I was working with you, Izzy, is like, hey Izzy, and I'm selling like a fitness course. Is like, hey Izzy, what would happen like if you didn't take care of your fitness and like you just completely let everything go and like you didn't eat healthy, you didn't go to the gym, like
Yeah.
what would happen over like the next couple months in your life? And you kind of let people like create their own problems because if they don't recognize that they don't have a problem, then there is no solution. Like you
Mhm.
can't provide a solution without. And I think that's a mistake some people make sometimes is we focus so much more on like what we're going to provide for the actual client, but we don't get the client to recognize what their actual problem is first.
Pain point.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so like our pitch, say at the door, and this applies to any form of sales, is number one, like your first step, and this is a framework to operate off of, is to number one, break preoccupation. Is people are preoccupied with everything and anything in the world.
Mhm.
So like that just means getting their attention. So if we're on the doors, we're like, hey, good afternoon. Did your neighbors tell you about what's going on? And then the homeowner's like,
Mhm.
oh, that's interesting. Or if you're messaging people, like, um, say for example, in fitness, you could be like, hey, I saw your page. It looks like you're doing some super cool things, but I had a couple quick questions. Just
Yeah.
kind of leave it ambiguous,
Yeah.
like catch their attention. And then your second step is to create a problem with some sort of social proof.
Yeah.
Like, hey, X, Y, and Z clients experience this problem, or
Yeah.
like asking questions to get them to say it. Then you provide a solution. And then your next step is your takeaway. As soon as you give them the solution, you have to let them know that it can be taken away. Like you would
Nice.
need to qualify. And
Yeah.
then your last step is just to transition into the like actual close and simply just assume it is if you have a good enough offering, and this is a test actually, like as a salesperson, to know if you have a good enough offering.
Mhm.
If you have a good enough offering, you should not feel bad about asking this question. And it's simply as like, and I keep going back to fitness because that's what I think of as like online
Yeah.
sales. But
Yeah, it is.
like, say I was working with you, Izzy, and we went through, the fitness course that I was going to provide. And I said, okay, well, Izzy, do you want to do this on like, do you want to, set up our next class on Tuesday or Wednesday? Or
Yeah.
like our next meeting, just simply assuming it. Or did you want to do this like card or like wire transfer?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
assuming it and asking a simple like option close.
Yeah.
Like if you have the confidence to ask that, most people need to be led towards the direction of making a decision and
Yeah.
given two options as to like, do you want to do this way or that way?
So
And
I
if you
mean,
have the
that's crazy because that is literally how, like, that's one of the techniques for working with kids, like, especially toddlers. They want say in everything because they have no say in anything. So, like,
yeah.
hey, we're going to go change your diaper. Do you want to walk over there? Or do you want me to carry you there? And it's like, okay, like, I'll, like, or I want you to carry me because they're like, now I have the power. And that's crazy that that's literally how it works with adults now.
Yeah, I guess it's
Which Sunday
transferable.
works better for you? Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And it comes, you have to have conviction in your offer too. Like you have to know that you're actually providing value.
Yes.
Then it's so much easier to ask that question. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that is the key of like all this. Like you have to have value. You have to be adding value. But okay, so can you run it? So the first one was attention. I'm going to write these down so I can put them in the show notes. So you said first is like
break preoccupation.
Yeah.
Because they're preoccupied with The Bachelor or friggin' Sunday Night Football, whatever it is. They're doing something. Okay. Grab their attention. Second is to create a problem.
Okay.
Because they need to recognize that they have a problem. If it's not broke, they can't fix it. Then provide the solution. Then your next step is to pull that solution away, the pullback, because they're gonna, want the solution more after that. Then the last step is just to transition, like assume the close, an option close. And another close that you can add into that too is we call it the 2 conditions close. Okay. So say, for example, you make it a conditional agreement or you add stipulations for yourself. So if I was selling fitness, I'd be like, and Izzy, we would only do this on 2 conditions. Number 1, if I know that I can, say I was selling fitness to a client, if I know that I can help you lose 10 pounds in the next 3 months. And number 2, I can help you live like a healthier and more fulfilled lifestyle, then we can move forward. If we feel like I can't do both of those things, then we won't do this at all.
Nice.
And then you kind of let the client know that you're able to actually fulfill on your promises, it's actually serious, and they feel like there's something actually on the line when really there's not much on the line.
You're just
yeah.
That's great. I love that, and I think I can think of 3 people who already are going to listen to this and be like, thank you. I need to hear that because it is a tough world. It is a tough world. And I think the online piece is tough, but the way that you presented that was already really good. And then you said that place called Upwork where you can.
Yeah. Upwork. It's just like a hiring marketplace. They have a ton, mostly overseas people that you can hire to do different tasks.
I know they have that program that's out now that is that AI-based program that you basically give it your life story and as much information as possible, and now it DMs you. It's pretty crazy.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
They have a free trial right now. It's not going to be for long, and I forget the name of it. It's hey, maybe you should look into that.
Yeah. I'll text you about it. That's super cool.
No, for real. Because I literally heard about that. I was like, dang, there's just a piece of that to me that I'm I couldn't feel good about doing that. I think from a personal page, maybe that'll change. I think, and it's funny because when you get those messages from different entrepreneurs and stuff, they're not messaging you.
Yeah.
8 million followers. They're really what's up, Izzy?
Yeah, I know.
So there's a piece of it where you want to be authentic. So I'm but it kind of.
There is 2 pieces of it too. It's I get the authenticity part. It's hard to craft a message that's duplicatable, that is authentic. Yeah. But 2, say for example, the service that you provide is it's a trade-off. It's you're going to be able to help more people because you are reaching out to more people. And so it's just a question is and it's hard. I'm not saying there's a right answer either way, but it's do I want my attention to either be really wide and shallow or really narrow and deep?
Yeah.
And for some, it just depends on what you're doing and how much you can impact people. But
and the offer. And I like what you said though. It does come back to impact. And I think about that too, just with kids that I coach. And I think out in Tennessee, it is different between girls and guys out here. Girl coaches are seen lesser, and it's a harder fight in that space.
Yeah.
Just not used to that in California. It's different out here. And I had some parents be oh, they hadn't even met me or trained with me. And they were just I think that we're going to go with this. They literally said this male coach. They said that. And at first I just took it and I said, okay, hope it works out great for you. And then I sat there and I was I haven't even met this coach, this male coach. I said, I still believe I'm a better coach now. I don't know anything about him, but that's how confident I am that I will make these kids' lives better. And so I messaged them back the day later. I said, hey, I'm going to speak very honestly, I truly want your kids to excel the most. I want them to achieve their goals. I want to help them play on in college. I want to help these things. I believe that I can do that without a doubt in my mind. I said, I have never met you and I've never met that coach, but I know that I could help your kids. And I believe that I am the best coach. I said that. I hadn't even met that. Yeah. And then they showed up and they brought him on as a client.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool. You had the conviction in what you're doing.
It was the conviction because I just sat there and I was like, let me actually think about this. I actually just believe I'm the better coach. Like, I believe I'm going to care more about these kids. So I was like, right, I'm going for it. And then it worked out for me. But yeah.
That's cool. That's a cool win right there.
It was. You got to believe in what you're doing, though, because people are going to doubt. People are going to doubt all the time. So
100%.
But we're out here. I'm so glad we got to meet and everything today. This was great.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on, Izzy. It was cool catching up.
Yeah, let me know if you need anything. I'm gonna put also I'll put, if it's good with you, I'll put like your Instagram and stuff in the show notes so people can write. Is there anywhere else that people should look for you if they're interested in?
No, just Instagram is totally fine.
Instagram's good. Okay, well, awesome. Thanks, Christian.
All right.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm so grateful for your support. I'm already excited for the next show. Turn on notifications and be on the lookout for my next episode. Also, please share the show with anyone you feel like might benefit from listening to. Thank you for all your love and support. I will see you soon.